Corleone, a place where the darkness is not just the night, but a cloak for secrets that must never be spoken. Here, even the wind that blows through carries the iron scent of blood, and amidst the cold cobblestone streets, there is a name that people dare only whisper when the night is deep: Totò Riina. He was not a survivor of chaotic times. He was the storm. A child raised in poverty, yet his eyes never saw the world with fear. Palermo had its monsters, but none like him. He did not wait for the darkness to consume him. He became it. In November 1930, Corleone, a small village in Sicily, was engulfed in a violent storm. In a dilapidated house perched on the hillside, Maria Riina writhed in pain, struggling through labor. The agony tore through her like a knife, blending with the howling rain outside the window. Giovanni, her husband, had no other choice. He grabbed a tattered cloak and rushed out into the storm to find a midwife. The rain lashed like a whip against his face, and the wind howled through the narrow alleys. Giovanni ran through the village, searching for Grazia, the only midwife in Corleone. His feet faltered on the slippery cobblestone streets, his heart heavy with worry. At last, Grazia agreed to accompany him. Under the faint glow of an oil lamp, they made their way back to the small house where Maria was waiting. Maria fought through the pain, while Giovanni could only sit silently by the fireplace. Time seemed to stand still. The sounds of the wind, the rain, and Maria's groans melded into one. Then, amidst the raging storm, a cry pierced the tense air. Salvatore Riina, a tiny child with deep dark eyes, was born. The early years of Salvatore's life passed in rare tranquility. Giovanni worked as a quarryman, carrying explosives up the mountains daily. Maria toiled in the fields, her hands calloused by the arid, unforgiving soil. Despite their poverty, they shared moments of warmth together, but that peace was not destined to last. As Salvatore entered his teenage years, he began to change. He no longer spent his time helping his parents. Instead, he roamed the village with a gang of local delinquents, learning to fight and chasing thrills. Giovanni's advice and reprimands no longer held any meaning for him. When Salvatore was 13 years old, tragedy struck. Giovanni, as he did every day, carried explosives up the mountain to work in the quarry. But that afternoon, a deafening explosion echoed through the hills. A massive boulder collapsed, claiming his life. Maria rushed to the scene, her heart-wrenching cries resonating across the mountainside. But Salvatore, he stood silently, his gaze cold and emotionless as he stared at his father's lifeless body. In an instant, Salvatore Riina became the head of his family. But at just 13 years old, he understood one harsh truth. This world had no place for the weak. From that day forward, Salvatore began to change, transforming from a rebellious teenager into a predatory force. And thus began the rise of one of the most notorious crime bosses in the history of Cosa Nostra.